Hey everyone, how's it going? Gamer Geek here, and today I'm walking you guys through the process of rigging our basic character models we made last week. This process is not a hard one and can take less than 10 minutes to do once you commit the process to memory. For those unaware, rigging your model is essentially adding bones to your mesh, which can allow the mesh to move and create animations. The most obvious use of this would be for animation projects like movies or cartoons, but this also relates to game design, where you can create various animations as assets for video game characters. So with that brief explanation of what rigging is, let's jump right into rigging our character model in Blender. Okay, to start this tutorial, go ahead and open your character you made last week. I gave you guys the freedom to make something entirely different than I did in the last tutorial and to experiment with what kind of characters you can make. I don't want you to worry though, as the process of rigging your character will still work no matter what your character looks like. Something else I want to point out is that even if your character isn't a basic humanoid model like mine, yours might have extra limbs or even a tail, the same process of rigging your character will still work. You'll just be adding in extra bones to your character that mine won't have, but it's the same basic steps. Okay, with your character opened up in Blender, right-click on your model and set your origin to the 3D cursor. This will allow us to rotate our character correctly. Rotate the character 90 degrees to face the Y-axis in a positive direction. This is important for creating our bones later. Now switch to a wireframe view by either pressing the option in the top right corner of the viewport or switching with the keyboard shortcut by pressing Z and selecting the wireframe option. Now we can press Shift A and add in an armature. The armature is your skeleton for the character, made up of however many bones you create. When the armature is created, you'll see the first bone generated at the world origin, right between your character's feet. With it selected, tab into edit mode and we can get started. The first thing we want to do is make it easier to see the bones, so go to your Object Data Properties menu and under Viewport Display, select In Front. This displays our bones in the foreground at all times without changing their location, making them easier to see and work with. In edit mode, we want to move the bone to the base of the pelvis, and there are several ways to move bones in Blender. You can left click on the center of the bone to select the entire object and move it with G like you would any other mesh. Or you can select either end of it and move those, which will alter the size and orientation of your bone. For this though, just grab the whole bone and move it up to the base of the pelvis. With the bone at the base of our pelvis, select the top of it and adjust its size so that the bone reaches the top of the pelvis. Now we want to generate a new bone from the first one, which you do by extruding it with E. Drag this new bone from the top of the pelvis to the bottom of the chest area, right underneath where the ribs would be. From here you want to extrude again and make sure this new bone is the entire length of the chest area. So what you have now is 3 bones that, when finishing the tutorial, will each move a different section of the character's body. This is why the placement and size of your bones is important, as you wouldn't want one singular bone from the hips to the neck because the stomach and chest areas wouldn't be capable of individual movement. Okay, from our top bone, extrude one more time and left click once you drag it out. We'll be unparenting this bone so it moves freely from the rest and resetting it in the neck of our character. This is so our character can have an accurate placement for the neck bone without it being an inappropriate size. To unparent the bone, click on the menu in the bottom right section of your screen with the bone icon. Under Relations, click the X to unparent the bone and now it can move freely. Move it to the base of the neck and from here you can adjust the bone's size if necessary and extrude it out from the neck to the top of the head. Now we have 3 bones making up our character's spine and 2 bones from the neck and the head. Go ahead and name them for organization's sake by clicking on each bone and typing over the names seen at the top of the side menu. I'll be using names like pelvis, stomach, chest, neck, and head. Go ahead and reparent the neck bone to the chest bone so it will move with the rest of the body. Go back to the neck bone and under Relations, click the drop down menu and select the chest bone in my case. We only unparented the neck bone so it could move freely to a specific location. Now that we're reparenting it, it will move along with the rest of the bones in the body. Without reparenting, your neck and head won't move correctly. Okay, switch to a front view and select the top joint of your chest bone. Extrude to the side to make our shoulder bone and move it to the proper location for either shoulder. For the video, I'll be working on the right side. Now extrude out from the shoulder to the elbow, and then from the elbow to the wrist, and finally from the wrist to the end of the hand. My character doesn't have fingers, but if yours does, just create individual bones for the fingers and parent them to the main hand bone. Make sure you switch between your front and side views to make sure the placement of your bones is centered if necessary. When you're done, reparent the shoulder to the chest, and now you can rename your bones shoulder, bicep, forearm, and hand. Moving to the legs, extrude down from the bottom point of the pelvis and move this new bone to the thigh, staying consistent on the side you worked with for your arm. Repeat what we did with the arm, extruding from the thigh out to the knee, then from the knee to the ankle, then the length of the foot, and finally the toes. Now rename all of your leg bones thigh, lower leg, foot, and toes. Switch to the front view and select all the bones on the side you were working with. Right click and go to Names and select Auto Name Left Right. This adds a .R or a .L to each bone depending on what side of the character it's on. Now you can right click and select Symmetrize. This should create new bones on the opposite side of the mesh with the same names but changing from .L to .R or vice versa. The parenting should all be kept the same too. This is the reason we had our character face the Y-axis at the beginning of the tutorial, as the bones would not symmetrize correctly otherwise. Now to prepare our bones for movement. First, grab the elbow and knee joints for the bones and adjust their position so that the legs and arms have a visible bend at the joints. This is to prevent the limbs from locking up and not bending or bending in the wrong direction. From here we can add some bone constraints which will allow our bones to move together. To do this, we're going to use some control bones and inverse kinematics. It's a scary term that isn't as bad as it sounds. So to make our control bones, select both your knee joints and extrude out in front of your character. Shift select both ankle joints and extrude out behind your character. Unparent your new sets of bones, and now we can rename your bones knee control and foot control, keeping in mind the .L or .R depending on what side you started on. You also want to deselect the deform option for both sets of bones, located in the same menu where you parent and unparent bones, in case you hadn't noticed it. Now we can switch to pose mode, the option to do so being under the mode drop down menu. You can access it by clicking where it says edit mode in the top left corner of the viewport. In pose mode, select the lower leg bone on one of your legs and go to the bone constraints menu in the lower left corner. Click to add a constraint and select inverse kinematics. Make the target armature and the bone the foot control bone. You'll now see the option for pull target pop up. Go ahead and select it and again select armature for this as well. Set the next bone to the knee control bone and set the rotation to 90 degrees. This is to make sure that your foot is rotated to the correct angle. Now when you move your foot control up or down the knee control side to side, the leg will move accordingly. Now we want to go to edit mode and again select the foot bone. Shift select the foot control bone and press Ctrl P on the keyboard to parent the bones. Select keep the offset when the option comes up on your screen, and now you should be able to rotate the foot at the heel in pose mode. This will, however, cause the foot to detach from the leg if the control bone is pulled too far away. To fix this, select the foot bone and add a bone constraint, copy location. Make the target the armature and the bone the lower leg bone. Where it says head tail, set it to 1 to place the foot in the correct location. Now the foot will no longer come off if the leg is pulled too far. Now we can move on to the arms. From a top view, go ahead and select the elbow joint and extrude back. Drag this new bone straight back from the arm, drawing it out a short distance. Now select the wrist joint and extrude back the same way. Unparent both bones and rename elbow control bone and hand control with .L and .R depending on the side. Drag the elbow control bone away from the arm and make sure to uncheck the deform option like we did with the leg control bones. Really quick, select the hand bone, shift select the hand control bone and press Ctrl P to parent and keep the offset like we did with the leg. You can also move the knee control bones forward for extra control on the legs. Now select the forearm bone and in pose mode, add a bone constraint and again select inverse kinematics. For the target, select armature. For the bone, select our hand control bone. For the pull target, again choose armature. And for the next bone, select the elbow control. Set your chain length to 2 and now bend your arm by grabbing the hand control bone and moving it around. If your arm bends the wrong way, adjust the pole rotation to 90 degrees, negative 90 degrees, or 180 degrees to fix this. You can also adjust the chain length on your arm to see if it helps bend your arm a little better. Now select your hand bone and add a new constraint, selecting copy location again. Targets once again armature and the bone is the forearm bone. Set the head tail to 1, similar to how we did with our foot. Now your hand should rotate with the control bone and the arm will function like the leg, moving along with the control bones. You can repeat these steps for creating control bones and bone constraints to the opposite side of your character once you're done, finishing our basic skeleton. Once you're done, go back to object mode and select your character model. Shift select the armature and press Ctrl P to parent and select with automatic weights. Now when you move your control bones in pose mode, the whole character mesh moves with it. Thanks everyone, that about wraps up the tutorial for today. If you liked this video, be sure to give me a like and drop a comment of what you thought. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button because I make new videos every week. If you guys like this tutorial, be sure to check back next week when we'll be creating animations with our characters, so you definitely don't want to miss it. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next one.